Minecraft 1.20.5 is the armored Paws drop and comes barking in with Armadillos, wolf variants, wolf armor, changes to the spawn chunks, and much more. My name is slicedlime and I'm here to give you the best possible guide to all the changes. The Armadillo is a new mob coming to Minecraft 1.20.5. It is a passive mob with 12 health that is 6 hearts. It spawns naturally in the savanna plateau, and the windswept savanna biomes with the same frequency as chickens and pigs. They also spawn in all Badlands biomes. They can be tempted and bred using spider eyes, and breeding them now grants the parrots and the bats advancement, and is now required to get the 2x2 advancement. Killing an armadillo gives no loot. Armadillos will roll up into a ball when they feel threatened, like when it detects a mob or player nearby that has recently attacked it. In their rolled up forms, armadillos get protected by their shell, which reduces the damage dealt to them and allows them to fully resist some weak attacks. When rolled up, they do not move or eat, and cannot be tempted. After 3 seconds of not seeing any threats, they'll unroll. Armadillos will not roll up if they are already fleeing, are in the air or in water, or when on a leash. Spiders and cave spiders now run away from armadillos as long as the armadillo is not in its rolled up state. Armadillos will drop armadillo scutes periodically at around the same rate as chickens lay eggs. Brushing an armadillo with a brush will also cause it to drop an armadillo scute, which takes a good chunk of durability out of the brush. A newly crafted brush will last for 4 scutes worth of brushing. This brushing can also be done using a dispenser. The existing scutes have now been renamed to turtle scutes. Crafting 6 of these scutes together in a harness shape will give you a wolf armor. The armor can then be placed on a pet doggo by the owner by interacting while holding the item. To take it back off, interact while holding shears. Since this can only be done by the owner of the pet, dispensers cannot equip or remove the wolf armor. You can now dye wolf armor the same way you can dye leather items. A wolf armor protects the wolf fully against most damage sources. Instead, the armor takes the damage to its durability. As it breaks, visual cracks will form on the texture, until it eventually breaks entirely and the wolf can take damage again. The owner of the wolf can now also repair wolf armor by right-clicking the wolf with an armadillo scute while it is wearing damaged armor. 8 new variants of wolves have been added to the game. Like other mob variants, they all have the same model but different skins. The old wolves are now called pale wolves, and they now only spawn in the taiga biome with a pack size of 4. Woods wolves now spawn in the forest biome, also with a pack size of 4. Ashen wolves spawn in the snowy taiga biome with a pack size of 4. Black wolves are a variant that spawn in the old growth pine taiga biome, in smaller packs of 2 to 4. Chestnut wolves spawn in the old growth spruce taiga biome, same thing here, the pack size is 2 to 4. Rusty wolves are a variant that spawn in a location that previously did not have wolves, the sparse jungle biome, in smaller packs of 2 to 4. Spotted wolves spawn in the savanna plateau biome, which is also a location that previously did not have wolves. They spawn in larger packs of 4 to 8 individuals. Striped wolves also spawn in larger packs of 4 to 8 in a new location, the wooded Badlands biome. And finally, the snowy wolf is a rare variant that spawns alone in the grove biome. They always have a pack size of 1. Together with the introduction of wolf variants, the blocks that wolves can spawn on have been extended, letting them also spawn on coarse dirt and podsole blocks. Tamed wolves now have twice the amount of hit points compared to before, 20 hearts instead of 10. They also heal twice as many hit points each time they're fed, so healing a severely hurt wolf to full health still takes the same amount of food. A special property where tamed wolves would take half damage from environmental damage types has been removed. And wolves now only get knocked back from snowballs from snow golems like other mobs, instead of also taking damage. A bug has also been fixed where the health of tamed wolves would reset anytime their data loaded, like when saving and loading back into your world. The passive mob spawns in the grove biome have been changed. The spawning of chickens, cows, pigs, and sheep have been removed, and the balance of spawns between the remaining mob types has been adjusted to match the food chain. Rabbits are the most common, followed by foxes, and finally the snowy wolves are the most rare. Some bee and parrot flying fixes as well. They should now be better at sticking to the right height. They no longer get stuck in non-full blocks like lanterns, and the beast can no longer be lured to fly right into dangerous blocks. Leashed pets no longer teleport to their owner when the area is reloaded. The default spawn chunks are now a 3x3 area, a reduction in size by 98% compared to before. This means fewer things constantly updating in your world if you're away from spawn, which should lead to noticeable performance improvements for many players. If you want to change the size, there's a new game rule called Spawn Chunk Radius. The default is 2, leading to a 3x3 chunk area. If you want to retain the old functionality, set the spawn chunk radius to 10. The possible values for this game rule are from 0, which completely disables the spawn chunks, to 32. Together with this, the end portal for both entering and leaving the end now load chunks the same way that nether portals do. Llama Spit and Shulker Bullets have gone back to not damaging armor stands, and maps no longer break in weird ways when renamed copies are held by other players. You no longer get a plus NBT text when using Control and Pick block to copy a block with data, to avoid that lore being saved into block entities. Hoppers with a full block above them no longer search for item entities to pick up, much the same way they would act with a furnace or composter above before. This is part of a larger group of optimizations to reduce the performance use of hoppers. Hopper minecarts are not affected by the changes and can pick up items through blocks. And bee nests and hives are exceptions to the rule, and hoppers will look for item entities to pick up even when those blocks are above them. There are 4 new advancements in this version. Isn't it scute? For brushing armadillo scutes off an armadillo with a brush. Sheer Brilliance, for using shears to remove the armor from a wolf. Good as New, for repairing wolf armor. And the Whole Pack, for taming one of each wolf variant. This one is a challenge advancement which awards 50 experience when completed. In visual news, fog on armor now matches the fog around the entity wearing that armor. The orange fog from being in lava has been adjusted to give similar visibility as on the Bedrock Edition. And the snout of a sniffer no longer changes shading when it sniffs. Status effect particles are no longer blended together to show one color. Instead, the different status effects now all render as individual particles. The frequency of emitting particles has also been adjusted to lower the clutter. When loading into or out of the nether, you'll now see the nether portal texture while the terrain is loading. Similarly, when loading into or out of the end, you'll now see the end portal texture until the world is loaded and ready. The dirt texture that was shown behind many of the menu screens in the game is gone. Instead, the background is now rendered with a translucent dark pane. This means that you can see the panorama behind all the menu screens outside of the game, and see the game world behind all the menu screens while in the game. In either case, the image is also blurred, and the strength of this blur can be controlled using a new option in the accessibility settings. The dirt that used to be shown behind the end poem at the end of the game has been replaced by the end portal texture. If you liked the dirt background, you can have that back by enabling the Programmer Art Resource Pack. The High Contrast Resource Pack now also makes the backdrop entirely black. When opening the F3 debug graphs for performance, operators on a multiplayer server can now see the server TPS graph, which was previously only available in single-player worlds. The performance graph for the server side has been improved to show more aspects of performance. It now shows as a stacked chart of red, light brown, purple, and light green, yellow, or red. The dark red section is what used to be shown, the main logic of the server tick. Above that is light brown, which is the time spent running scheduled tasks. The purple section is all other time during a tick, and the top section shows the amount of time the server was simply idle waiting for the next tick. That section is green, yellow, or red depending on the lag of the server. The option for turning on commands is now labeled Allow Commands rather than Allow Cheats. And click and hover events now work properly when viewing chat while in F1 mode. One of the splash texts has also been changed. Java 16 plus 1 equals 17 is now Java 16 plus 1 plus 4 equals 21. In options news, there's a new font settings screen in the language menu, which now has the forced Unicode setting. This new screen also lets you switch to using Japanese versions of the CJK characters in the default Unicode font. And there's a new language. Vyasa. Some news about the game executable itself. Minecraft Java Edition now requires Java 21 and a 64-bit operating system. If you're using the official Minecraft launcher and you have a computer that is not ancient, you shouldn't need to do anything. But if you have a third-party launcher or a custom Java installation, you may need to update that to a Java 21 installation. Performance improvements have been made for both the updates of hoppers and for the amount of network traffic sent when joining a server. And the time it takes for the game to generate a treasure map or otherwise locate a structure has been optimized. There are also new warnings for running out of disk space when joining a world, and regular toasts popping up in-game if you're running out of disk space. Errors while saving the game now also show a warning pop-up. This version also contains changes to the experimental Update 121 features. As a reminder, these features only exist in worlds where the Update 121 experiment was turned on when the world was created. Let me start with the Breeze and its wind charge projectile. That has a new model, texture and animation to give it a more dynamic feel. The Breeze now drops a new item called a Breeze Rod. Each Breeze can drop 1 to 2 of the Breeze Rods, with an additional 1 to 2 for each level of looting. The Breeze Rod can be crafted into 4 wind charges. A wind charge can be activated to spawn a projectile much like the Breeze's wind charges. Using a wind charge has a half-second cooldown, and they can also be fired from a dispenser. They activate redstone components on impact and also deal damage on direct hits, and a small explosion effect of knockback. The knockback is 10% more powerful than that of a Breeze, but has much smaller area of impact. Being launched by a wind charge knockback also has an effect on your fall damage. You will only take fall damage as if you fell from the height you were at when the wind charge hit. That means that if you land back where you started, you'll take no fall damage at all. The home of the Breeze, the Trial Chambers, have also seen plenty of updates in this version. Let's start with the Vault block, which can be found in many different rooms of freshly generated Trial Chambers. The Vault is a loot container with some important differences to regular chests. One difference is that the vault requires a key to open, in this case the trial key, which previously didn't have any use. To unlock the vault, interact with the key on the vault block. The other major difference is that much like an ender chest, the contents of a vault is per player, which means that each player can unlock each vault once, gaining the loot inside. After unlocking a vault, you'll never be able to get more loot from that particular vault, but if you're playing on a multiplayer server, other players will still be able to open that vault. There's no maximum limit to the number of players who can loot a vault. When you approach a vault that you have not unlocked, a stream of orange particles will flow from your position to the vault. The vault block has a keyhole on the front that will open if any player who has not opened the vault yet gets within 4 blocks, and close if all such players step more than 4.5 blocks away. This state change can be observed by an observer. Within the vault block you can also see an item display. This shows the possible items that players can obtain from looting the vault. However, the display is not connected to what you'll actually get when opening the vault. Once you interact, the loot is selected from the vault's loot table. That is to say, you cannot time interacting with the vault with when a desired item is shown. The vault cannot be obtained or moved in survival mode. Mining it is equally slow as mining a trial spawner and drops nothing, and it is fully resistant to explosions. The vault outputs a log level of 6 by default and 12 when the keyhole is open. Together with this, the texture of the trial key has been updated. The vaults also come in an upgraded version called the Ominous Vault, which requires a separate key and holds better loot. The trial chamber placement has also been changed. They are now slightly more rare and less likely to end up close to each other, and the trial chambers are now more consistently buried in solid matter underground. In order to find one, you can now trade with a cartographer villager to buy an explorer map to a trial chamber. They're sold by journeyman level cartographers, which is level 3. 4 of the chambers have also been remade and are now called the Assembly, Slanted, Pedestal, and Eruption chambers. And all chambers now have a new trap dispenser style. In general, the amount of trial spawners in corridors has been reduced and the layout of trial chambers has been updated. Corridors can no longer generate endlessly, and there's now an atrium that can generate together with the corridors. There are a number of changes to the layout of intersections and corridors. There are now vaults scattered throughout the chambers, and ominous vaults in chambers, intersections, and at the end of corridors. All the trial spawners now scale slower, Every player added to the fight now adds to the amount of mobs present at the same time by 0.5 instead of 2. Trial spawners now also only activate when players are in line of sight. Baby zombie trial spawners now also only have 2 mobs present at once as a baseline, which is down from 3. Bad Omen has been expanded and reworked to give access to an optional experience in trial chambers. Instead of getting Bad Omen directly from killing a pillager captain, you now get the effect from consuming a new item called an ominous bottle. Instead of stacking up effects, you get a different level of the effect directly from consuming an ominous bottle of that level. The Bad Omen icon has also changed. Pillager captains now drop ominous bottles of a random level from 1 to 5. Alternatively, you can also get one of level 1 or 2 from a trial chamber vault. The bottles stack up to 64 and shatter when consumed. Another difference in this version is that Bad Omen doesn't immediately trigger a raid on a village when you enter it. Instead, it will change into Raid Omen effect, which lasts for 30 seconds. Once the 30 seconds are up, a raid will start at the location where the Raid Omen was initially triggered. This doesn't mean all the mobs spawn there, but rather that it doesn't help to run away from the village. However, just like any other effect, you can dispel the Raid Omen by drinking milk. The big new thing with Bad Omen, however, is that it can also transform into a Trial Omen effect when you enter into the detection range of a Trial spawner while under the effect of Bad Omen. Trial Omen has a duration of 15 minutes per each level of Bad Omen. When you have Trial Omen, you are surrounded by particles. When a player with Trial Omen is in range of a Trial spawner, that spawner will turn into an ominous Trial spawner if it's either not on cooldown or if it wasn't ominous last time it was active. In this case, it also resets the cooldown. When a spawner becomes ominous, it'll despawn any existing mobs it spawned and reset the challenge. It will then stay ominous until it has been defeated and its cooldown has been finished. Ominous trial spawners glow blue instead of orange and emit soul flames instead of regular flames. They often spawn mobs equipped with weapons and armor with armor trims from the trial chambers. The armor and weapons are often enchanted, and none of this equipment can drop when the mobs are killed. In addition to spawning armored enemies, ominous trial spawners also spawn potions and projectiles on top of unsuspecting players and mobs. Based on their location in a trial chamber, a trial spawner will select a random set of projectiles to spawn, which will always include a single type of lingering potion from a set of possible effects. Those lingering potions can also include some new potion effects. The wind charged effect makes any affected entity emit a wind burst on death. The weaving effect makes any affected entity spread cobweb blocks on death. When an entity with weaving dies, 2 to 3 cobwebs spawn and can also replace replaceable blocks like short grass. Entities affected by weaving can also move more effectively through cobwebs. The oozing effect makes entities spawn up to 2 slimes on death. Slimes are naturally immune to the oozing effect. And the infested effect makes any affected entity have a 10% chance to spawn 1 or 2 silverfish when hurt. Silverfish are naturally immune to this effect. These potions aren't exclusive to trial chambers either. With a base of Arcward potions, wind charged can be brewed with a breeze rod, weaving with a cobweb, oozing with a slime block, and infested with a stone block. These potions only have 1 level and cannot be extended. However, you can turn them into splash potions and lingering potions. The set of loot from the trial spawners has changed in this version, now focusing more on providing resources to continue fighting. Using the trial key on a vault now gives you a set of unique loot, including a new Guster banner pattern and a new Bolt armor trim smithing template, which is duplicated using a base block of unoxidized copper or waxed copper. If you defeat an ominous trial spawner, you get a different set of loot as a reward. Notably, instead of a trial key, you can get an ominous trial key. While regular spawners have a 50% chance of giving a trial key, the chance is only 30% for an ominous trial key. This type of trial key can be used to unlock some unique ominous vaults that can be found in harder to access parts of the trial chambers. Opening this has unique loot, notably the Flow banner pattern and the new Flow armor trim smithing template, which is duplicated using a breeze rod. The most unique reward, however, is a new block called the Heavy Core. This loot also includes stronger ominous potions of level 3 to 5, enchanted books with some rare enchantments, including some of the new Mace Enchantments we'll get to in a minute, and enchanted golden apples. The loot of the pots around the trial chambers has also been updated to now contain 3 new pottery shards: Flow, Guster and Scrape. You can craft 2 of the new items together, the Breeze Rod with the Heavy Core. This forms a new weapon, the Mace. The Mace deals as much damage as a diamond sword and has the same attack speed. The special thing about the Mace is that if you land a strike while falling, the damage increases depending on how far you have fallen. This starts happening after 1.5 blocks of falling, 3 points of damage per block of fall distance. Damage increases in a seemingly unbounded way from this. Landing a hit after falling about 150 blocks will one hit kill a warden. If you do land the hit, your fall damage height is reset to that height, as if you had used a wind charge at that height. So if you land shortly after, you take no fall damage. When successfully hitting a target, your vertical momentum will completely reset in addition to the fall height resetting. The Mace has a special effect for a strong attack called a Smash Attack, which includes a new explosive particle effect and a strong knockback effect that knocks back other entities around the target you hit. Once the Mace starts breaking, it can be repaired using breeze rods in an anvil. Many existing enchantments can now work on maces, including Mending, Unbreaking, Smite, Bane of Arthropods, Fire Aspect and Curse of Vanishing. There are also 3 new Mace-specific enchantments. Density comes in levels 1 through 5 and can be gained both as books in loot and directly from the enchanting table. Each level of Density adds 1 point of damage per fallen block. The Breach enchantment comes in levels 1 through 4 and can also be found both on books in loot and in the enchanting table. It is used to remove parts of the armor of the target, removing 15% armor effectiveness per level. And finally, the Windburst enchantment comes in levels 1 through 3 and can only be found on books in the Ominous Vaults. Maces with Windburst will emit a Windburst on hitting an enemy, which can launch you back up into the air. The strength of the Windburst is increased with each level of the enchantment, starting at 0.5 for level 1 and increasing by 0.25 for each level.
The Windburst effect only triggers on smash attacks and requires the Mace to not be on cooldown.
The Mace-specific enchantments are not exclusive, so you can add all of them onto the same Mace. Let's have a more detailed look at the Heavy Core. If you don't want to craft a mace out of it, you can also place it. This gives you a block the same size as a player head. Mining a Heavy Core is pretty slow. It takes 15 seconds to punch out and is mined more efficiently with a pickaxe. They are fully resistant to all explosions but can be moved by pistons. It can also be waterlogged. Like other blocks, they stack up to 64. On a map, Heavy Cores have a silver color. The Bogged is a skeleton variant much like the Stray that has been added into the Update 1.21 experiment. The Bogged is mossy and mushroom covered and can spawn naturally in the darkness in swamp and mangrove swamp biomes. Just like the Strays, they spawn in addition to normal skeletons rather than replacing them entirely. And they're somewhat rare. The chance of a Bogged spawning is half of that of a common mob like a skeleton, zombie or creeper. One difference from the Strays and Husks is that the Bogged do not require sky access to spawn. They can also spawn in caves or other dark spaces in those biomes. The spawners in trial chambers that used to spawn skeletons holding poison arrows now instead spawn Bogged. Bogged have 16 health, that is 8 hearts, compared to the 20 or 10 hearts of regular skeletons. Like many other undead mobs, they burn when directly exposed to sunlight. They also attack slower, 3.5 seconds between attacks compared to 2 seconds. This shrinks to 2.5 seconds when playing on hard mode, compared to the 1 second of a regular skeleton. Arrows shot by Bogged inflict the poison effect, and they have a chance of dropping poison arrows when killed by players with the same chance that a Stray drops a slowness arrow. There's also a new interaction. Shearing a Bogged will now cause the mushrooms to disappear, and 2 random mushroom items to drop. Bogged spawn eggs can of course be found in the creative inventory, looking a bit like slightly green tinted skeleton spawn eggs. Killing a Bogged now counts towards the Monster Hunter advancement and is also now required for the Monsters Hunted advancement. And parrots can now imitate Bogged sounds. There are also a number of new advancements for the experimental content. Minecraft Trials Edition for entering a trial chamber. Under Lock and Key for unlocking a vault with a trial key. Revaulting
granted for unlocking an ominous vault with an ominous trial key.
Blowback for killing a breeze by returning a wind charge. This one is a challenge advancement which gives 40 experience points as a reward. Who needs rockets? For using a wind charge to launch yourself up at least 8 blocks. Crafters crafting crafters, for being near a crafter when it crafts a crafter. Lighten up, for scraping off a copper bulb to make it brighter. And overkill, for dealing 50 hearts of damage in a single hit using a mace, like one hit killing an iron golem. This is also a challenge advancement that gives 50 experience points of reward. There's also a small update to another of the experimental packs, the Villager Trade Rebalance. Villagers that trade armor now ignore the durability of the armor, so you can now trade in used armor. And with that, we have reached the end of the changes. However, if you're into map making, data packs, resource packs, or modding, this version contains more. Much more, in fact. I will be making a separate video about those technical changes, very likely a very long video, because oh boy, are there plenty of goodies to show. So keep an eye out for that on the channel. But that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you for getting the channel over the hump to 100,000 subs. My name is slicedlime, and I'll see you next time.